One more place.
All right.
It's the same one. Hold it. All right. Let's wait. Make sure I see we're live, but I want to make sure it's showing on all the places. Let me check with Lee. Yeah, on my page. I see it there. I think we should be good. Let me just make sure. All right, we're good to go. All right. All right, you guys. Peace. It's your girl. I'm back. It's Libby, Olivia B, Shinka, Black Hood Hippie, all of those things. Miss Elderberry, DMV's own Hood Hippie. We are back with another episode of Pens to Pages. This is episode 9, and we've got this beautiful, beautiful sister here. Her name is LaMonique Hamilton. We're going to get into her bio, and then we're going to get into the conversation, let you all know what we've got going on for tonight. So LaMonique Hamilton is the founder and president of Center Creative Company, a boutique media company that amplifies historically muted and ignored voices. Ms. Hamilton is a digital media executive, producer, former journalist, and political strategist. She has worked on numerous local, state, and federal campaigns. For years, she penned a weekly newspaper column about her journey as a woman of faith and the joys and challenges of the decision to take deeper dive into her spiritual calling. She enjoys traveling and reading. This is, you all, LaMonique Hamilton. The book we are talking about tonight is Shift. I recently purchased a copy. I am going to show you guys the cover just on Audible because I have the actual cover too. But here's one of the versions of the covers. If you can see it, it is Shift. Welcome to the stage, or welcome to the studio, Miss LaMonique. It is a pleasure and honor to have you here. How are you?
I'm fine. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Olivia. I appreciate it.
Well, we are, we are always thrilled. As the people know, I always like to get into the content before I have the authors on. We've been doing this now, I want to say a few months, since the end of May, early June. We've had some phenomenal authors on here, independent publishers, self-publishers, also traditional. I did read your piece. I'm almost at the end. I'm at chapter 30. And I promise y'all, I'm not going to give y'all too much tea, but this is definitely a must, must, must have. So without giving up any information, let's get into some of the questions so that we can start to entice a little bit, because I can guarantee that what you have to say is an awesome, awesome, not only that, informative piece of information or roadmap that I believe almost all women should have. So can you give us a little bit about your background and what led you to writing?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I've always been a writer. Even when I was young, I was a little girl. And I had Barbie dolls like a lot of little girls do. And instead of just playing like little little games with my Barbie dolls, I would write scripts for them. I would build towns for them. I think my family probably got sick of me always asking for Barbie related things, but it was because I was building what I saw in my head. Um and creating these stories and these storylines and building character. So in that sense, I've always been writing. Majored in creative writing in college, and i've I've just always had a thing for the narrative, a thing for storytelling and narrative building.
Wow. Let me ask you a question, because I love you know, number one, first of all, I have never, I mean, there's some imaginative minds out there, and I'm sure there's somebody, a twin that did that in the world, but all of us, just like you said, played with Barbies. But I have never heard anyone say that they wrote scripts for them. That is so amazing. Like, I mean, like
It was very
that
serious for me.
I can picture that because I remember a friend of mine, my cousin and I, we would take a tape recorder and act like we were doing news interviews and things. And I was always the bossy one, but I can only imagine you writing scripts and scenes out for Barbies. I mean, that's that's super dope. And do you see what's on YouTube nowadays? That's pretty much what they're doing. Kids, I saw my grandson watching people take those Paw Patrol action figures and it's somebody holding it and they're making like a little story.
Yeah.
Like you are like probably like a pioneer of that thought. Like
Look, and my son was doing that when he was a little boy, and he says to this day, and he's probably right. He is probably right that I kept him from millions and millions of dollars, because he was making he was making the little stop action skits on like and putting them up on YouTube when he was like 9 or 10 years old.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness. And that's all I see them watching now. I didn't understand it and I happened to look over the shoulder and I'm like,
he was
is he
ahead of his
watching
time.
somebody hold it? Oh, see, like you are a pioneer. He inherits that. Like, oh my goodness, that is so cool. Um, Now this piece shift. Without giving too much, tell us a little bit, a brief description about what Shift is about and what led you to write Shift.
So very briefly, Shift is about the transformations that we all have to make in our lives, whether it's navigating parenthood or navigating our careers, navigating relationships, or just society and culture in general. And you just happen to get it from my personal POV and just the very personal, intimate things that I went through in walking through my spiritual path and just really taking a deep dive into who I am as a spiritual being.
Um, I do want to say, because I'll give a little bit of snippets. The way that it starts off caught me up right off the break. And just to give you guys a very brief how it was captured, she starts it off and she's in an airport where she missed a flight and she's waiting on a flight. And in that moment, she saw something that seemed such an overlook simplicity, I guess, be so synonymous with the biggest thing that there is in existence, which is life. And it was very, even just in that moment, the very very first paragraph was like, wow, the comparison. I'm not even giving up the comparison, but the comparison that you made was extremely huge, but to be such a subtle, huge, obvious. You know what I mean? Um, what were you going through in that moment? What space spiritually were you in that moment?
Um, Extreme gratitude. That's really where I was when I wrote that introduction. And just to be clear, I've had people like my accountability partners, my friends and creative partners who have been pushing for me to get this book out for years. It's like, look, when is this going to happen? When are you actually going to do this? And I was like, there's a few things that just need to happen first, or a few things that just need to, I'm not, it's not complete. Like there's not a complete body of work, even though I had a ton of content. I just knew it wasn't complete, and I didn't know what that thing was going to be that would be the impetus to complete it. And that's like, sometimes that is the con of of like working in nonfiction versus versus a work of fiction, because if it's a work of fiction you can kind of get away for a weekend and kind of delve into your characters and and finish up a project. But when it's your life, you just kind of have to life to happen.
Right.
A little
Life is
bit.
life. And
Yeah, you have to wait for life to life a little bit. So that's basically what I was waiting for. And I was like, I'll know it. I'll know it when it happens. And it just happened to be that day sitting in the airport, and I was like, oh, I know how to tie all this together. Like, I know how to do this. Um and it all came together because sitting in the airport, and I actually wrote, I wrote half of it in the airport and the other half on the plane. And that day I just looked at my life, and I looked at how full circle everything had become, and that basically everything that God had promised me in the times leading up to it, and in the earlier essays that are in the book, had come to fruition.
Mm,
While I was sitting, like when I was sitting in that airport, and sometimes we forget, it's like, yeah, you missing this flight today. Yep, you've been in this airport for a very long time, but this is what you prayed for. Like this moment right here, even though it might not be the most comfortable moment in your life, is exactly the moment that you prayed for.
mhm,
So I I thank God that I was able to see it in that moment for what it was. And I was able to write on it, because I do think so often, myself included, those moments are all around us and we miss them.
mhm, mhm,
So the fact that I was able to see it in that, in that one space, I always call it that God spark moment,
mhm.
and was able to write it down is truly a blessing. I'm in awe of it even now, like even today.
Well, I know when the spirit moves the person, you become a conduit. And
Yeah.
even though you had this information, you had it, like you said, all of these things you compiled, but trying to tie it together. When it's time, it's divine time.
Yep.
You know that you have a desire, you have a goal, but if it's meant to be, the timing is going to be when it's supposed to be. And wow, you prayed for it. A space was created for you to make the accomplishment. So it was necessary and it was supposed to be. So I think that's no matter what, you'll find the comfort because, like you said, even in your book, you looked around and you were happy that that's where you were. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You were happy with the surroundings and the space that you were given to even do what you prayed to do. You know what I mean? Um, I like to jump. I don't even ask these questions in a particular order, but you triggered something with something that you responded with. You said something about accountability partners.
Mhm.
Strong word. One of the questions that I like to ask about is the circle support. I very seldomly, if ever, hear people say the word accountability partner. Can you elaborate on what accountability partners are and how that has been an impact on you completing this goal?
Yeah. Because I absolutely believe in having accountability partners. And honestly, my friend circle is the best. My friend circle, my circle of closest friends, we all happen to be creatives in our own right and in different ways. And we respect each other's mediums. And we collaborate together a lot. And we draw on each other's strengths. And so when we know that we all like want to move up, or there's somebody who wants to do something over here, but they need you to get your stuff together so that they can do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they become more than a friend, they become an accountability partner, they become that person who pushes you and asks you, like, hey, did you write today, did you work on this today, how far have you gotten today in your journey to become an entrepreneur, or how far have you gotten today in your photography business, or in your social media business, or in your graphic design business. And they just, like, they hold you accountable, and they will not let it go. Which is necessary, because anybody who tells you that this journey, especially a creative journey, is something that, like, your passion will just get you up every morning, they're liars. They're lying liars. What's the Kamala picture from last night? I put it in my stories. It might still be it might still be there, but yeah, look, what is said in the stories, fella, like it's because they're so necessary. I don't care how much passion you have for the work and how how much like creativity you have within yourself, how talented you are, how skilled you are. There will still be days and there will still be things that make you just not even want to get out of bed. And when those moments happen or when it becomes easier or more comfortable to just say, forget it. I'm just gonna, like I'm just gonna do my 9 to 5 because I can count on it. I know exactly how much money I'm gonna make. I have benefits. I have this and that,
Mhm.
and it's easier. It's easier. That's when those accountability partners really show you who they are because they're like, yeah, baby, it might be easier, but it's not worth it. Like it's not worth the regret that you're gonna have in the end. So very
Mhm.
thankful for my circle of friends, and for my family who hold me accountable and like are very real about you're wrong and you need to deal with this.
Mhm.
Um, because if those aren't your friends, I tell people this all the time. Like, if those aren't your friends, if those aren't the people that you are, the company that you keep, you need to keep new company.
Mhm.
Um, because people who are just like blowing smoke up your butt and telling you that you're great all the time and not holding you accountable for your mess are not real friends.
Agreed, 100%. It sounds to me that you have a really nice and dope and tight knit, circle of support. And it sounds like friends and family, which is
Yeah.
awesome because that's important. And I absolutely love that accountability partners. Y'all hear that out there? Get you some. There was a comment. Yes, accountability partners are so important. They can push you to achieve. That's right. Push you to achieve your goals. Absolutely correct. Now you also triggered another question. That's one of the questions here. You said, the times when you don't want to get out of bed and different things like that. And I know that the accountability partners help motivate you and they push you. Even when you don't want to be motivated, they push you. Tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about what your writing process looked like. Now, you did a little bit. You said you pretty much wrote this, half of it in the airport and the rest of it on the plane. Now, once you got the pretty much the content down, what was your next steps? Did you get editing? How did you proceed before publishing?
Well, my situation is just a little bit different, but I will say without hesitation, I've worked as an editor, and now I do have an editing partner that I work with. I don't think anything should go to print that has not been edited. Like you cannot edit yourself. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how many awards you have won as a writer. You cannot, I repeat, cannot edit yourself. So you have to find a good editor. In my case, because my essays originally appeared as a newspaper column, for the most part, most of them, they were already edited. So they had gone through the editing process week by week as I was publishing them in the newspaper. So when we got down to creating the book, it was more about the flow of the book. We didn't necessarily put everything in order. Um, but it was just the way that the book flowed best. And so I really needed my editor to help me with that. And then also with the pieces that I wrote that were not originally published. We made sure that all of those pieces got edited. So it's like just slightly different, but it definitely still went through an editing process before
Okay.
we thought about going to print.
Right. That's very important. I've definitely, um, again, support all independent, those who are doing it out there on even the traditional, but I can tell the difference. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I would say I hadn't always been an avid reader. I haven't, maybe over in the last 7 to 10 years, and I become an avid reader. I've always been a writer, but my writing Sounds good. But the editing, punctuation, baby, you telling me somebody who think you writing until you know. I mean, even commas and different things like that, just basics. You know what I mean? Um, all wrong. So I even myself, you know what I mean. But I have read even some of the most award winning books, and I'm not looking for errors. I'm actually
Mhm.
looking to read the book, but some of them are so blatant. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
kind of like, and you know that these big authors have had editing, so it could be print, it could be whatever. But then you can tell the content who hadn't had editor, because you could tell, did you even put your eyes back on this before you went? Even after it's edited, you still got to read the whole thing again. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
I still, even right now, or the first couple of weeks that my book came out, I still found a typo, and I would go back and I'd fix it so that whoever ordered it next, you're gonna get it without the typo. You know what I mean? It would be something small, but I noticed. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yep.
did read it again, but it's just so that's very important. How did you, as far as publishing goes? Now, that's right. You've had your editing, which is really a plus, because I'm sure that saved on some, but again, you added and different things. What did you do for publishing? How did you go about? Did you independent publish, or did you traditionally publish?
Yeah, so I did publish independently, and I really thought about this before I decided to do it. I've been really blessed in my life to meet a ton of people from all walks of life, and I actually had a couple of publishing companies that were interested in the book, but when I thought about like who I knew in the world of marketing and how I could market myself, that I knew how to format, and I felt like I could get a good product out and that I could get it out to the people without having to go through a traditional publisher, and so I could keep my royalties. Um, I made a decision just to independently publish, but it is something that I think people should think about. Like, they should think about what the role that publishing companies play, because traditional publishing really might be for you if you know that you don't have a marketing budget. If you know that you don't really know a whole bunch of people in media to do interviews and to get the word out, to get your story out, then it might be in your best interest to go through a traditional publisher because they take care of all of that. That's why they take half of your royalties, because you got to pay them back. Um, but those are just things to think about. And I don't know if I'll always go through that route. But on this one, it felt like the right thing to do, just to have complete ownership of the work.
Mm, hmm. And someone put a comment. They said that when the author begins to write their book, the words flow so quick that they don't realize any grammar errors. Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. So
Yep.
it's best to have an editor go over your book before you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whoever put that comment
'Cause
out,
you'll
absolutely,
read it
absolutely.
through and you think that it said "the" and it never did.
It never even said yes,
It never
or
did.
it said the
Mhm.
behind, somewhere else or whatever. You're right about that. And not only that, when you're writing it, it's like you're talking it. Nobody's
Yeah,
around, but you might, you know what I mean? So it's like just like a typewriter. It's kind of, you know what I mean? You're not really, you're really just delving into what's being said. So I totally agree with that comment there. That's definitely true. I wanted to read something that stood out. Just one small piece, and I'm going to put this in quotations. Um, it says here, I'm a change agent, connector of people and ideas, a solid friend, the mom my kid needs me to be, and one of God's great works being brought to completion. I read that and I thought about those things, and a change agent, connector of people and ideas, a change agent. Um, that stands out so much because as I read through again up to chapter 30, almost near the end, change agent. someone who is transforming constantly, you
Mm-hmm.
know, stepping into your divine purpose and embracing the change. You're not fighting. You know how many of us fight the change,
Yeah.
for so long, and it seems like at a very early, even you do got to go through some stuff. You went through some stuff now,
Yeah.
you
Right.
went through some things, but it didn't seem like it was hard for you to finally surrender. Um, it also seems like there were, again, these accountability partners that stayed in your life for probably since you were little, that even helped you stay the course, even when you didn't feel like you were going a certain way, even with the driving. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And things like that. When people, and you said in there somewhere that finally stepping into the person that a lot of people that knew you knew was there. And it's not the words verbatim, but it's what you said, that so many people, even some of these accountability partners, were waiting for you to show up because they seen it in you
Yep.
for so long, and I think that's amazing that we can finally stand out of our own way, because most of the time what's blocking the blessing is
I
ourselves
was,
standing in the
yeah,
way.
I was my like, and I'll say when I wrote that part, I really was thinking about the words we tell ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves about us. And I was like, I get to choose my story that I tell about me the same way that, when I work with companies or when I work with organizations and I've worked on projects, I tell their stories. And yet I wasn't saying the best story about myself. So now now I say I can tell my story with confidence, and I know it's a true story.
Hmm. Hmm.
Some people can say the words, but it's not necessarily a true story. And it took a while to get there. Now, one thing that you did say that I'm gonna jump on just real quick is that you said
Nope, take your time.
it seemed like it wasn't that hard to surrender. Um, not true. It was so hard for me to surrender to the change, but I had no choice. Like I felt like God had left me with no choice. It was surrender or die. Um, and maybe not, maybe not a physical death, maybe because when you are going against everything that you're supposed to be doing, it triggers all kinds of diseases and terrors in your body. So it could have possibly led to my physical death, but it definitely would have led to my spiritual death. I had no choice. I had to surrender or I was gonna die. And it was hard. It was seriously the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Well, I'll say this. There's some portion in there where you're talking about, well, you're sincerely giving prayers to the world, basically. Let's just say you definitely depict the prayers that your prayers are intentional that you're giving, but you also say things like, I wonder if my word even makes a difference, and maybe it'll make a difference and I may never know it. Let me tell you something. We are a part of the world, even on a smaller scale. And I'm not telling you this as advice because I'm sure you know it. That as above is so below. When you correct and when you transform within, you restore some of the world. That does change the world. It does stop wars. It does calm chaos. Even like you said, if you don't see it, it occurs. Because it occurs within you, it occurs outside of you too.
Yeah.
Somewhere in this world, in another woman's heart, in another man's heart, in children that haven't even been born yet, that may not even be related to you, it does. And because of that, it is worth it. And again, it's not advice. I'm not telling you something you don't know, because I can see the glow. You can see when a person sincerely lives in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can see that. So by doing that, you do. It will. And it has, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Even this discussion, I mean, it's resonated with me and I just started reading it. So you can only imagine that the words do. Even if it's one person, it did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yes, you don't have to wonder. It's a fact. You know what I mean?
I look, I
Your
appreciate
messenger.
it. Yeah. Because sometimes you just need the reminder.
Yeah, and that's what
So
needs to happen when someone knows where the message come from. It's only honorable to give that respect. Now, those that get that message down the line, thousands of years from now, where you won't be here, we won't be here, but that message is prevalent to that person who gets it,
yep.
they will be thankful. Even if they don't know the name Lamanique, it don't matter. Recognition, our names are, it doesn't matter. You did it. You know what I mean? Somewhere. So it will continue from that. So that's the blessing in it. And I think that, just keep doing, keep shining, shining, shining. You, Pete, when you shine, you don't have to stand and say, look at me, I'm shining. You just
You're right.
live it and you be it. And you can be that light into somebody else's darkness. And I assure you that this book and the character, not even the character, the sincere author behind it, and then the words coming from the author. You know what I mean? Reading it, I prefer to read over Audible. That's my preference. But I just wanted to make sure to support anyway. And then hearing the voice with it, it matched. The tone is just like, wow, it's the author then. And you usually don't get that. And I think that's important sometimes too, because people can actually get the emotion that the author is intending, to get out there to convey. So I
Yeah.
definitely got that. Yeah, there's another comment. Your book will help others in their spiritual. Absolutely. Absolutely, it will, Lee, for sure. And whoever made that comment, because of the fact that what she is telling is it's not, oh, this is the happy ever ending. It's not a tragic or all these traumas. It's just basically a person and their conversations with God, and how the listening ear becomes more hearful and more obedient to doing what their divine work is called. And finally, like, look, I won't go against what my purpose is. You know what I mean? I don't have to go against it for things that I want. I'll fancy card this, but if that's not my purpose, I'll drive a bucket. She doesn't say that, but that's the message is there to say, look, I don't need to fight against what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? And if a lot of people would do that, whatever spirituality you are, whatever your walk of faith is, if you would step into your purpose and do whatever we're all here, so we're called for something. All of us have a job, a
Amen.
divine job to do. And if we could delve into that instead of, and it's nothing wrong with desires, but desires are tricky. They're illusional. It takes you away from whatever your innate purpose is. We all have a gift. You know what I mean? And just because Lamonique can do nails and you see you can do nails doesn't mean your job is to be good at it. That might be her craft. So understand that and be okay and at peace with it if it is not you seeing and being inspired by somebody's journey and it's not yours. You have one. Everyone does.
Right. Right.
And imagine what the world would be if everybody was tapped into whatever their divine purpose was as a collective. You know what I mean? I just, and so I think that sharing this spiritual journey is a definite path for people to step into their purposes, whatever it is, writing, whether it's becoming the next president, it doesn't matter, big or small. It will help you to delve into the you're supposed to be, and that's what's beautiful about it. So after this, what do you got next? You've always been a writer, so I'm expecting that this is definitely not going to be the only book that we
No,
see.
it's it won't be the only book. I definitely have some things in the works now. I am going to put on my producer hat for a little bit and do a couple of film projects. And
Excellent.
and working with some great people. I'm really excited about some of the things that we have coming up at Center Creative. And then also starting to outline my next book. Who knows when it's going to be finished, but at least I'm at the point now where I can start thinking about what's next, what comes after this. But first, yeah, a couple of film projects. We're a boutique media company, so we do a little bit of everything. We do digital, we do print, and we do film work. Might play around with some music too, but that's not on the agenda for right now. That's not in the plan, but it's whatever God wants.
Okay.
That's yeah. And you just said something actually about our desires. And that's one of the hardest things when you're taking this journey, because a lot of people, especially like in the Christian faith, talk about dying to the flesh. And and I'm like, and I get it, and I get that that's the jargon, that's the dogma, right, of Christianity, but I don't like it. um just keeping it real, it's like keeping it a buck, I just don't like it. And I know for me, I ask for the desires of my heart. Like I do. Like I ask God. I now when we start talking about like manifesting and things like that, I hand all of that over to God just because I know that we are powerful enough to manifest within ourselves, because God gives us that kind of power, so we can. However, I give it right back to God because you don't know what it is that is best, like for your life, and you might be manifesting something that you might really really want, but is a whole mess for your life. And so because of that, I was like, I don't know enough. Like, I don't know enough about the future. I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's so Raven, that is not my life. So I'm gonna give this back to God, and I'm like, you got it. So I still pray for the desires of my heart, because we all want
Mm-hmm.
it's like we all want things, but I always end it with, but God, if that's not your A game for me, like if that's not what you want from me, just go on and take that
Take the
desire.
desire.
Like, I
Right.
don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want it. It's like, because I'd rather not have something that I think I want now and still be in the will of God than to have this thing that I want and not be in the will of God. That's a very dangerous place to be. So yeah, so like yeah, that's what's concerning about the idea of dying to the flesh, is that people feel like they can't state their desires anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they can't live their dreams. And I'll say this because a friend of mine actually posted something a couple of weeks ago, and it really got me thinking about this idea of humility, um which I absolutely believe in. I don't believe in being boastful. I don't believe in being prideful. Um,
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think that humility has been weaponized. It
Mm-hmm.
has been weaponized by our society. It's been weaponized by the church, and it has been weaponized to women, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start talking about our desires, when we start talking about what we want, when we start saying that we're good at things, it's amazing how many people will start coming against you because you state something as simple as, I'm good at this. And I'm like, why would I not state that? That's what God gave me.
I'm
Like,
good at it.
I'm good, and I'm good at it. But and like, I can't speak for everybody, because maybe some people have never had a problem with this, but I have. Like, and this, it's been a struggle. But how old were you when you finally decided that you could say that and not feel that little flutter,
Guilt. Like,
that
is
guilt?
that a
Yes,
bad thing to say?
guilt.
Like guilt.
For
It's
saying,
like a guilt. I'm good
yeah,
at that.
it's like, look,
You
I'm
know?
not good at
And
everything, but this
why
one
is
little
that
thing that I'm
considered
good
in
at, flex on them.
right?
Like, I'm good at it.
And why is that person egotistic if they are good at that
Right.
thing. And
Right.
why are they now ego driven? Because they are affirming that they are good at this,
Mhm.
even if it's multiple things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And so
know, so I
and
do think that gets very jaded. That's a very and I think that I'm very, very happy or joyful to see that many people are now
oh, I love it. I
being
love it.
more comfortable in their skin and without the filter, and not, you mentioned that too, but without the filter and not needing outward validation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm really loving that. Somebody made a comment of something that I was certainly going to be asking to about a part of your publishing. Now, Audible. Because someone said, what was the process making your book an Audible? And that was something that I was going to ask as well. What did that process look like for making an Audible?
So my Audible process was very special to me, and it's because my son actually produced my audiobook. My son is a producer. He primarily works in music, but I was like, I think you could do this. You want to, like you want to work together on this and get it done. And so he took me on as a client. Um, I was like, I had to pay him, but I paid him the mommy rate. And we worked together over three or 4 days. Um, just sitting in a room and sitting with all the studio equipment. I'm blessed we had everything in the house, so I see that all this equipment that I invested in over the years has paid off. um and we recorded it. We recorded it, and he was tough. He was very
Mm.
tough on me. He was exactly the producer that I needed, because he made me go back and say, "Hey, I don't think you conveyed what you wanted to convey in a sentence, so go back and do it. Hey, start from this paragraph. I think you could do this stronger. I think you
Oh,
could
wow.
a little bit in the middle of the sentence." So he was tough. He was tough on me, but it was exactly what I needed. And then he went in and did all the mixing and mastering, and we got it ready for publication on Audible. Now, one thing that I will say about this, and I probably will do something on this at some point. Or maybe you'll do a podcast episode where you only talk about audiobooks.
Well,
But
yes, because that's something that that's definitely something I want to dive deeper into. So
yeah,
please tell
yeah.
me.
But yeah, one of the things I didn't realize that there were so many rules around it. Like there were things that you have to get exactly right as far as the levels that had to be exactly right for each particular piece.
Hmm.
The way you have to start the audiobook, the way you have to end it, are all very, like, it's all very formulated. So,
Wow.
I did not know that going in. So, we ended up having to, like, go back, and I had to re-record a few things just to make sure that everything was in keeping with the standards, so that we could actually publish on Audible. And I was like, I wish somebody had told me that there's, like, a whole list of things that we have to get
Oh, wow.
exactly right, because it probably would have saved us a lot of time. But we got it done. We got it done, made all the changes, and now we just have everything saved. So it's like, all right, for next time we got it. We know.
Gotcha. All right. Now, with Audible, um, tell me about, did you get a separate ISBN number? Because I know when you do get your own, some people will get it for their hard or paperback and not get it for the other versions. Did you get a ISBN number also for your Audible?
So because I got my ISBN through Amazon, it was able to kind of transfer over. So everything connected over from when I uploaded into Amazon for the book.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So that was nice.
Oh, nice. All right. Okay, very good. All right. And what for that, like, you have a studio, but what equipment is necessary in order to record an audible book?
Oh, girl, don't start me lying. I don't know.
Okay, okay. All right. I mean, that's fair enough. No, fair enough. Because you have a studio, but you got that equipment already. But I
Yeah.
mean, I wonder, I talk to people and I've never, people say that they do their, use the voice memos? I just don't know. I just was
Yeah, no,
wondering, you know.
my son has the equipment. So I'll tell you how this has worked in my house, and it probably has worked out for the best. He says, "Mom, I need," and then I buy it. So I'm like,
Okay.
I don't know the ins and outs of
Gotcha.
what I've been purchasing over the years, or what, and like now, now he's older and he's working, he's got his own money, so he buys his own stuff too. So I saw equipment come out. I know he used his laptop, and we had the microphones, and we had a little red thing. I don't know what these things are. I have no idea. Um, but
Sound just like me and my
this is
best
why you
friend.
hire a professional.
That's what I'm talking about.
Look,
Yes.
you be good at the things you're good at, and you let professionals handle all the rest of it. Like I tell people all the time, like, I trust you. Go be great. Operate in your genius.
And I'll
And
do my part.
yeah, exactly. And when it comes to recording and studio work, that's the end of my genius. I'm not there.
Completely understood. Completely. Oh my goodness. Now, what advice would you give to any authors out there, any wannabe authors out there, any people that are sitting around just thinking, I want to tell my story, but I'm afraid? What, and no matter what, genre, but I got a lot of folks that say, man, I got a story to tell, but I just, I'm not ready. What would you say to them?
When you first start writing, and this is something that has really helped me a lot. Nobody sees that except for you and God. So if you think this is something you want to do, just start. Just start. Like, you do not have to have a bestseller when you're writing the first word. Just to get the words out. And also, it doesn't have to be good. I think a lot of people, they self-edit while they're going, and what they're actually doing is censoring themselves. And they're trying
Mm,
to do like the most palatable version of their stories.
hmm
The one that they think that people actually want to hear, instead of telling it nasty and raw. I'm like, nah, baby, we got filthy stories. It's like our stories are dirty, they are gritty, they are nasty, they are raw and snotty and full of tears and blood and sweat. And these are the stories that people relate to.
hmm hmm
This is what people relate to. This is what connects us as humans. And when you first start, I said this a couple of weeks ago at an author's event. It was on a Sunday. I felt a little bad, but it is what it is. It's like, you can't be afraid of the shitty first draft. Like, that's what your editor is for. That's what revisions are
hmm
for. And we all have to go through that, and that's just a part of the process. But just get it down. Just get it down. And if for some reason you can't put pen to paper, or you don't have a laptop, I do know that's some of the stories is that they just don't have a computer, and you can't get to a notepad, or you don't have a journal or whatever, but you have a phone. That's when voice memos really comes into play. Like, voice memos
Absolutely.
is great. A lot of times, if I'm driving and I think of something and I can't, it's like, I'm not going to write and drive, like, but I can turn on my voice memos and I can just talk it out. I can talk it
hmm
out. And then you get the Google, you do Google Transcribe and let that thing
hmm
it puts you there,
Absolutely.
like, and then you can go from there. But if you commit to doing that a little bit every day, after a while you have a book. You know,
hmm
it's just a little bit every day. I know that there used to be a website. I don't know if it still exists, but it was called One Page a Day.
I
And
remember that.
yeah, and it would and when you would open up your laptop, it would pull up that one page, and it's like, nope, you got to write this one page, just to get you going, and to keep you on track. I hope that still exists, because that was actually really cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, I didn't even
That
think
helped me a
about that.
lot when I was
I'll
first
check.
starting out.
That's a really yes, and that's a really good app. I wonder if it is. I'm gonna check to see if it is. You had said something about when you're doing the editing and self censoring and you're not giving them the raw and dirty truth, and in that case, you're right. The readers don't want to hear the filtered because they
Mm,
can't relate to it. When things happen in their lives, in order to relate, they picked up the book because when it happened to them, it wasn't filtered. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So that's important. I love when people get raw and you can hear the tone and you can hear the transitions and the growth, the pain even,
yeah.
you know what I mean? You gotta understand and appreciate that pain because you know what I mean? How do you know what the joy is even like without it, you know? So
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's, you know, so a couple of things before we get into telling the folks, and to our moderator, shout out to our moderator, Miss Lee. We don't see her, but we know she is out there working the crowd, answering questions.
Thank you,
Please ask the
Ashley.
people. Yes, thank you so much. Ask the folks out there if they have any questions. And while she checks on that, before we get to giving the folks on the information on to how to get the content, the book, a couple of things that we do close to the end, and I think I'm going to go ahead and pick that first.
Okay.
That's my jam. We call it That's My Jam. So, a couple of things. 30 seconds. Give me your favorite musical artist. 30 seconds.
Oh, that's so hard because it really depends on the day. So today I'm gonna choose Prince, and here's why.
Okay.
Because
Prince.
an article just came out in the New York Times. I've been sending it to people all day today about this 9-hour documentary that the son of civil rights leader Marion Wright Edelman, her son actually directed this. Sounds like an amazing documentary. It's 9 hours long. It's been in like some private screenings, but apparently it may never see the light of day because of some issues going on with the estate
Mm-hmm.
and issues going on between them and the contract that was initially worked out with Netflix. So it put me on a whole Prince thing like all day long, and this is why I'm like, yeah, it's just whatever the
Mm-hmm.
like
Right.
whatever the
No,
day
that's how
but
it is for
so,
me.
yeah, so today is Prince, and if you could check out that article, and I don't know who we write, but it's like, yo, this sounds like something we need to see. I
To
really
see
want to
if we
see
can
it. Yeah,
get a
like
petition to them to release it.
we need to see this, and we need to see like the truth and the real unfiltered story about our musical legends, especially our Black musical
Mm,
legends. I want to see it.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Ah, I like that Prince, and a lot of good bangers anyway. And he's very, very humble. He was very humble. You know what I mean? Prince did a lot of great work that
Yeah, that he
people
never
don't
talked
know
about.
about. Never
Yeah.
talked about it. Never wanted to boast. He was sincere. He had great intentions for people. He was a great hearted man. Ah, rest in power, man.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, another personal jam. Mm, inspirational author.
Um, Alice Walker is definitely my jam. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of her work. Big fan of her fiction, especially just the way that she builds character and that she builds story. I've always felt like I could see myself in every single character. Um, and they're fully fleshed out. Like these people are my friends and my grandmothers and my aunties and my uncles. And these towns are my town. And I
Mhm,
always just aspire to be able to write not like her. I want to write like me, but
mhm.
but she's definitely an inspiration as to her process and the kind of things that she builds.
Okay, great one, great one. Favorite movie?
The Little Princess. It's such a like it's such I know it's
Good, though. That's
old
great.
movie. It's an old movie, but I don't know. There's something about that movie that just kind of I'll sit down every single time to watch it. That and A River Runs Through It,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
like one of
When
my
I
favorite movies.
loved A River Runs Through It.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, goodness. Through it. Excellent. All right. Last but not least. Words of guidance on your journey. Let's not even necessarily even on the writing journey. This is a spiritual ascension journey that you wrote about. Is transformation, it's essays. What words of guidance can you give to women on a similar path out there?
Pray, pray, and listen, because I know people who pray and they know the answer and they're not listening. It's like, and they don't go with it. So it's pray and listen, and don't make God go through a whole bunch of hoops um to get you to do what it is that you need to do. I've been telling people this all year. I know it's September, but I think it still applies. Like this particular year is a year of swift obedience.
Hmm.
I feel it in the bottom of my soul. I've seen it play out in my own life. Um, Basically, God's telling you to jump, and you already need to be in the air before you ask how high. Like swift obedience. Don't wait for the miracle signs and wonders. Like, just God says it, just go.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put a banner up here of this link for everyone to see so they can see how to get your book. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see here. All right. So we've got a link there. Her book is on Amazon. It is on Audible. Go and get you will not be sorry. You will not be sorry. Oh my goodness. Go and get this. I mean, I don't know how I became such a fan, but some things I pick up and I just can't put down. You know what I mean? And the only reason I hit play a little while ago on the Audible is because before we got on, I wanted to see if the voice, since I found out it was you on the Audible, I wanted to see if the voice matched up with the face, and it is. It's soft, and I don't mean in a soft, weak way. It's soft, it's genuine, it's sincere, but it matches. I don't. People tell me I'm a reader of people, but I feel energy, and I could feel it in the words. And, I could feel the sincerity when I heard the words too. And then when I met you on here, like it all adds up. And
I appreciate
I'm
that.
honored. It's been wonderful. It's been
This has been
wonderful.
great. So I'm so glad that you created this platform for authors and for yourself. So shout out to you. Shout out to you
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
for creating this.
It's been amazing. I've been able to learn so much. I've been able to connect, you know what I mean, build bonds. And it's something else you said also in the book. It's kind of like, when you're doing things, you need to get in circles of people who are doing like things. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's no leaving behind, but you're supposed to go anyway. And
Right.
everybody's not meant to go with you or even go the places that you're going. It's just like we're not always meant to go to where they're going. So I think that this has been a wonderful community building platform here. I do plan on in the future, sometime next year or early 26, of having an author's retreat.
Oh,
It'll be a
wonderful.
lot of fun. We'll be able to vend and sell our products. Some authors are entrepreneurs and have other things that they vend, but the authors will get an opportunity. We'll have a big day, our own like writing workshops and different things like that. But then we'll have a vending day. So it'll be a weekend fun. We'll be at cabins, but we'll host a community event. We'll all be able to be vendors
I
too.
love
So,
it. I love it. I
and
can't
I know you close. You're in the area too, so it'll be wonderful. We'll get that set up.
Yep. And I'll be in
And
DC tomorrow.
oh yeah, what do you? Oh, okay, okay. Are you
Yeah,
doing?
it's CDC
Oh, I saw
weekend,
the schedule. That's right. That's right. That's right.
baby.
That's right. All right. Well, be safe out there and enjoy. And sis, again, it has been a real honor having you on here. I thank you, and we are going to definitely stay in tune for
Yeah.
what's coming next. You said some film. We are definitely, and once you guys open the pages to this, you're gonna be on the seats waiting for what's next anyway. And I was thinking, I'm like, is she gonna do more essays? It does say 20. It has a date bracket. I'm like, because it's unfinished. This is
It is.
something that
Look,
it's
it is
not,
in progress.
it
As
really
am
is. You
I.
said a woman in progress. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, you know, Oh, there's something that I got to go back and mention. And
Okay.
I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget because sometimes my mind, it was something huge actually. We didn't talk, two things that I have to mention. Okay. Two things. Number one, before I give the bigger thing that I wanted to talk about, and we're going to spend as much time as we need. I want to talk about two things in particular, but this one first. You mentioned something that was extremely inspirational. You picked it up from a grandmother you never met. I'm picking it up from you. I'm adopting that from you. Now, some of those things I've passed those deadlines, but that's okay. You started writing letters.
Mm-hmm.
This was something, it's two things that's huge. This letter part, I literally got a notebook just for letters. Now, I went and got one off the shelf when I read that part because she started writing letters to her unborn son when she was pregnant. Then she's talking about writing letters to her grandchildren that she hasn't even had yet. Her son's future wife. Just and then you talked about becoming an elder when you have more days behind you than ahead of you, writing letters to your son and something about that. Uh, if imagine, and you talked about having, inherited the quilt that you never met this grandmother, but your
Mm-hmm.
dad had it. Something about leaving an ancestral trail to me is so important because we know we can be pretty confident that your son and his grandchildren and their grandchildren, even the ones that you don't meet, may know your name. But imagine you not being here and them opening a letter from you, their grandmother. I That moved me in a way that I don't want to get emotional, but that really touched on a way that I was just like, oh, that is. I have written letters to the little girl version of myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know how you go through your cycle. They're still in an envelope, sealed. But thinking about writing letters to my daughter,
Yeah.
who's married and has two children now, two grandsons, love them, but still the opportunity to write certain letters and
Yep.
leave them behind. When I read that, it just was like a defibrillator. I was like, oh my goodness. You guys, to all of you out there listening, that was something so powerful that I read that she has written letters and is in the process of writing these letters to future generations, grandchildren that she has yet to have, daughter-in-law that you still are yet to have, correct?
Yet to have.
And just imagining, the the feeling that even when they're going through something and she reads a letter from you in an hour of, and not praying that they'll go through something, but life is
Right.
life, you know what I mean?
Right.
And when she can see that bond that she may not see visually, how mother-in-law, different things, but seeing that is some sincerity that it's just unmeasured. You don't see that, you know what I mean? And more of that needs to occur. Now, the other thing is bigger than all of that. I wanted to save it for the end. Y'all go get the book. I want to give a special shout out right now to Aunt Jean. Tell the folks who Aunt Jean is. Would you do that?
Yeah, happy to do that. So my aunt Jean, my sister's my mom's sister, was a very very instrumental part of my life. When actually it goes back into the letters too. One of I did start writing the letters when I found out that I was having my son. And my mom was actually still around then, but my mom passed just a few years after that. And so I primarily did my parenthood journey without my mother. And if anyone who was close, close to their mom, like I was close to my mom, and to think that you aren't going to have them, for some of the most monumental parts of your life. My mom, wasn't there as I was raising my son. She wasn't there when I got married. She wasn't there when I got divorced. Like, we could have talked about
Mm.
a whole bunch of stuff, baby. Like, it's like, but my mom wasn't there physically. And my Aunt Jean really took on that role. Like, and I mean, just like nobody asked her to, she just did it. Or maybe my mom asked her to be quite honest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm so glad that she did. I am so
Mm.
glad that she did. And I mean, she really took it. She really took the role very seriously. She made sure that, when I was still living in Baltimore, my son would come down to North Carolina in the summers and he would stay with her. And he would have the best time. So he still got those kind of like grandma moments with my Aunt Jean. Anything that I needed, she was just full of wisdom and good advice and common sense in a world where that's just not so common. Um
Mm.
and I'm just always very, very thankful to her. When I first told her that I was leaving my corporate job when I turned 30, and I was like, I'm gonna leave my corporate job and I'm gonna give this writing thing a real try. And she was like, I don't know about that. But but it's because she had common sense and she knew, it's like, look, you got to have your ducks in order to really make this thing work. But as you know, like, and I mean, I had a hard road to toe at first, but like eventually it caught fire. Like eventually it caught fire.
Mhm.
It did what it was supposed to do. And she supported me in all of that. But no one was more proud than she was when she actually started to see it catch fire. And
Mhm.
honestly, she passed away before she could see it catch the big inferno that it had. And the way it's really, really taken off, but at least she got to see the beginnings of it. And I'm so thankful for that, and thankful for her journey, and even thankful for the way she she inspired me as she was going through her transition process because she was ill. She inspired me in that, and how we live with dignity, and how we die with dignity as well. It's,
Absolutely.
it's such a blessing. Even as it's one of the most difficult things you'll ever watch. Um,
Mhm.
but also one of the biggest blessings, to see it in action, and to be able to think through how you're living your own life, and apply the lessons that she taught me, while she was going through that journey.
Absolutely. And like a comment says, everybody needs an
Mhm.
Jean. So glad you were able to. There's a song that I'm not even a huge rap head, but there's some things that's been catching me. But you won't hear it on the radio. But this dude, his name is M MJ McQueen, AJ McQueen.
Okay.
So good. But he's just listening to what you were just saying and reading parts about her in the book. And what he says, his hook is he heard the elders say, "Set yourself down and talk to God. Tell him
Mhm.
what's on your mind." And it's like the elders, some of us hear those voices that, they always say, "Oh, grandma ain't going to be here for," they say these things that you just kind of let them go over your head. And the whole time you're catching jewels, you don't realize you're catching these jewels.
Right.
Every time you're in their presence, you don't realize it. You just, hanging with your cousins and doing whatever, but you're really retaining these jewels. And you don't really open that chest of treasure until they're gone,
Yeah.
until we're here and we're like, the influence has been, I've been rich. And it ain't had to be money. I've been rich in love and
Yes. Yes.
foundation and grandmothers in the high beds with the crickets in the window. You can hear them in the
Yes.
summertime where the TV went off at nighttime and we had supper and we had breakfast and a extension cord would come out if you act out of pocket. But the real bedtime stories, the real the grandmother factor, we had that, and Aunt Jean seems like she was just that. She was
Oh,
the aunt, the grandmother, the mother, the sister, the friend, the person who's going to feed the neighbor. You know what I mean? And whoop their behind if they needed it too,
oh
and
yeah,
pray for you.
absolutely,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So I know Aunt Jean without knowing Aunt Jean. We've all had one, and shout out to all of the Aunt Jeans, particularly this one tonight. We're venerating her. So as long as we continue to lift their names up, they will never, ever, ever truly die. So it's a blessing, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that meant a lot. So I wanted to hear about that and those letters.
Yeah,
Again, Lamonique,
thank
it
you so
hit.
much for pointing
Oh,
that out. Yeah, I
no, I didn't want to
appreciate that
forget. It
so
was
much.
something was pulling like you forgetting something. There's something important to you that you wanted to mention, and I really wanted those two things, the letters and Aunt Jean. You know what I mean? Was huge. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate you being on with us tonight, and we will definitely gladly have you back. Definitely about Audible, because I
Yeah,
definitely want to get more into that, especially since I'd love to try to convert some of the material to Audible myself. So I would love to
absolutely,
get your
absolutely.
insights on it. Thank you all for watching, tuning in. You see it on the screen, and of course later on I'll certainly put the link on the page so you all can get this book. Get the book. Get the book. It's called Shift:
Yes.
Essays of a Woman in Progress. Get
Hold on,
that
let's
book.
see. I got it. There we
Look at how
go.
beautiful it is. Ah,
Mhm.
how beautiful it is. You know what I mean? And if you look on the page on the Creative Cradle for authors only, Miss Lamonique's schedule is up there. I did snatch that from her page. If you all would like to see what she's got coming down the pike, please take a look. Her schedule is up. You can follow her. You can certainly get more in tap with her to see what she's got coming. But we'll definitely have her back on here, especially when she has those film coming up. But we'll come back to talk about Audible as well. Thank you, sis,
Well,
and have
thank
a
you.
wonderful
Thank you, sis.
evening. All
You
right. Thank
too.
y'all for rocking with us tonight. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night.